2 years ago, my life was shit. I wasn't doing too well in school, I couldn't find a job, and I was struggling financially. I thought my life was over. But within 2 years, I changed my entire life around. I never worry about money, I have a really good job, and I have a really large apartment. I changed my whole life around, and I'm just a normal person, and I've done this multiple times throughout my life, and I'm gonna teach you how to do this. It's not hard, it's super easy. In case you don't believe me, here's my current study schedule, and here's what I've done in the past. I taught myself how to juggle. I won a Kanama contest. I used to practice 4 to 5 hours per day. I landed a bar spin on my BMX bike multiple times, and I've done all the Kazami's Easter egg. Currently, I'm reading a book in Japanese, and I often talk to my Chinese tutor entirely in Chinese, and I'm an American who isn't super smart. Most people who tell you about studying online just give you the basic methods that anybody can know. You can just go ChatGPT that. But for this video, I'm gonna give you all the secret methods that these people don't know, that ChatGPT doesn't know. And I'm gonna give you one super secret hack towards the end of the video, so make sure you look out for that. Most people don't tell you there are two paths in learning. The first path is you're just having fun, and the second path is there's some type of end goal. You're only doing this to achieve X. That's the only reason. An example of studying for X is you really want to get into medical school. That's your main goal. You don't typically like studying for medical school, but you really need to get into medical school, so you study. The other path is you're just having fun. For instance, if you're playing Rocket League with your homies, you may want to get the Grand Champ, but it doesn't really matter that much. You're not trying to go pro. You're not playing Rocket League to achieve X. You're playing Rocket League to have fun. If you're just playing to have fun, you're gonna have fun, and a million opportunities are gonna present themselves. For instance, take a look at Rodney Mullen. He loves skateboarding, and he just wanted the skateboard. He was having fun, and he took it all the way to make a living out of skateboarding because he practiced 12 hours a day because he was having fun. Now, you might not practice 12 hours a day, you might not go pro, you might not get super great opportunities, but the thing is, you have fun, you progress, you learn. There isn't really a hard limiter there. What I mean by that is if you stop practicing, if you stop playing, then there's no harm, no fault. You're not gonna crush your dreams. The second method is the hardest because you don't necessarily like doing this, but you have to do it. But to be honest, these kind of suck and they're kind of really boring. But how do I do it? How do I study Japanese for 6.5 hours per week, Chinese 6.5 hours per week, and edit videos for almost 9 hours every week? I use a method called every week I study X, and I've ingrained that far into my routine. But how do you get this number? This number is very difficult to come up with because it's based on your schedule, it's based on you. For instance, when I first started doing this goal, for maybe 6 months, I would say, I'm gonna study 3 hours every day after work. And then I'm gonna study 10 hours every day on the weekend. But I would never finish. There was never an end goal. I would always be behind, I always couldn't do it, and I was getting burnt out as cheese. Because when you overstudy and you don't have fun, you get burnt out. You're tired. You're like, am I doing this for? And it's terrible. What I did was I scratched out. This kind of sucks. I deprived myself of fun, and I was eating like microwave pasta to save money to get money. And it was terrible. Don't do that. What you first should do is look at how much time you spend on your phone and your screen time. If you spend like 5 hours a day on Instagram, like, okay, you have 5 hours to study. Do you want to study those 5 hours? Probably not. What you should do is maybe take like, okay, I spent 5 hours on Instagram, I'm gonna study 2 hours today. Whatever number this may be, you may say, okay, I'm willing to study 1 hour per day and maybe 4 hours on the weekends. This is the thing that helped me the most. Take that number and you add it up. Say you study 1 hour per weekday and 4 hours on the weekends. Okay, that's 9 hours. And then every Monday you say, okay, I'm gonna study 9 hours, and when I finish, I can either study more and tally that into the next week, or I can just relax and chill. You always need a goal, an end goal in this instance, because if you're just going, I'm gonna study as much as possible, that's how you get burnout, because you don't do anything fun. You're confined to the study. And at some point, you're thinking like, okay, I'm not gonna go hang out with all my friends today. I'm not gonna have fun because I should study an extra few hours. And that mindset kind of sucks because I wasted like a year. Sure, I grew exponentially in that 1 year, but I had no fun because I always said no. I said no. I went from someone who loved hanging out, who loved competing in contests, to saying, no, I have to study. No, I have to do more work. And I kind of burned myself out. Now you have that number, but what should you study? What should you work on? And the way I look at this, everything you kind of want to learn is kind of different. But I say 60% of the things you want to learn need to be practical, real input use. I'll give you an example of this I was struggling with for a long time. When I was studying Japanese, every time I tried to read a Japanese book, I failed. I couldn't do it, and sometimes I gave up and I quit. And I just said, I'm going to study this textbook, and then eventually I'll study so much textbook that I can be able to read Japanese. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you want to be able to read, if you want to be able to write, if you want to be able to speak, these are all different skills, and you actually have to read native material, and you have to kind of like suck it up. I would break down how many hours you have to study into the different skills you want to learn. Maybe a quarter of that is textbook study. Maybe another quarter of that is practical uses. And maybe another quarter of that is making explainer videos on the topics you learned. Or if you have 3 different skills you want to learn, maybe Japanese, Kanama, Chinese, you need to break that down into 3 different parts and kind of focus on 1 or 2 skills for each. For instance, I'm working on long form YouTube videos right now, which is what this video is, but I still have short form content to make that gets me more views and makes me some money. But making long form content and short form content kind of conflicts. So like week 1, 2, and 3, it would be long form. Then week 4, I would kind of just do all my short form videos for the next month in that 1 week. And this way I have like a priority basis of this, and I don't get too confused, because you don't want to have something where you go, oh, I don't know what I should do today. No, it should already be predefined in your schedule, and you should just do that. This is a super secret point, is that you need to just study. You don't need to find the perfect method. As long as you study something, you will improve. But there's also the secondary point of studying effectively. So you have to study something, and you have to study kind of effect. For instance, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna read, Japanese every day this month, then you're reading a passage that's way too hard for your level, and you can't understand any words in it or any grammar patterns. It's probably a waste of your time, because you're not really learning anything. You're not studying effectively. But the thing is, don't spend all your time looking at Reddit and finding the best study methods. That's just pointless. You want to find something that works for you, and you want to do it for the specific amount of time you set. The next thing a lot of people ask me is, how do you have motivation? Like, how do you do this every single day? For instance, I take a photo of myself every day, and I film a new Kanama video every day. And I've been doing that for maybe 8 and 9 years. A lot of people do. How do you do that? Well, the thing is, it's been so ingrained into my routine, and I've gotten so far with this. If I quit now, it'll be a whole waste of time. I don't want to waste the time. I want to keep doing this. I want to improve my skill set. So all these hours don't go to waste. So that's how I stay motivated. And also, because I post that on social media, and I show all my friends my photo everyday video, and it's kind of like I'm holding myself accountable here. Like, if I don't do this, then it's over. Whatever I built, the empire I built over 8 or 9 years, just collapses, decreases, and I'm flattened, and all my hard work goes to waste. It goes completely to waste. Like, why did I do this for 9 years if it's just going to go to waste? And I think that's one of my main motivations to study. It's not the fact that I can't stop. It's not the fact that I want to study every day. It's not the fact that I don't want to go play Black Ops 1 every single night after work to decompress. It's the fact that I built this routine. I've ingrained it into my entire brain to where it feels like if I don't study this amount of hours, and it's a ridiculous amount of hours, 21 hours per week on top of my full-time job, if I don't do this, I am a failure. And I built this into my schedule where, most of my free time, most of it is down to studying, because by the time I'm 30, I want to be able to speak Chinese. I want to become fluent in Chinese. I want to be able to make a large amount of money on YouTube videos of me basically doing nothing, because I've tasted it, right? I've tasted the fact that Facebook will pay me for almost nothing, and then I lost it all. They pay me very little now. And it's like, okay, how do I get back to this? How do I not waste this knowledge I've acquired over the years? And that's why I'm partially making this channel here, because the fact that I want to show you, I want to show the viewers that if you put in a tiny bit of effort, you can be better than 90% of the population at anything, at any skill. And that is a fact, man. Right? If you do anything for 15, 20 minutes per day, and next year you'll be better than 99% of the population because they don't do it. They never try, and you're automatically better. You post 5 YouTube videos, you're better than so many people who posted 1, who posted 0, who go to their friends. Yeah, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel these days. And all you have to do is start. If you're gonna suck, you're gonna suck. You're gonna fail, you're gonna wanna quit, you're gonna wanna do all it. But if you stick to it, if you push through that failure, if you come back, you will accomplish all the things you want to accomplish in 5 years, and it's just a little bit of work. And most of these people I know are annoying. They're quite frankly annoying. I know this guy who goes, I'm gonna be a vocalist. I'm gonna do all this stuff. And he has picked up the microphone 1 time in 6 months. Like, how are you gonna be a vocalist? How are you gonna be the next, Chelsea Grin, the Screamo guy, if you don't practice, if you don't put in the work a little bit every day? And that's the thing, right? You just have to say to yourself, okay, today I suck, but next year, the year after that, I'm gonna be so good. And you need to be held accountable. The next thing I don't like is when people say, don't tell anybody, work in silence. I think it's not good to work in silence in the beginning. In the beginning, not good. In the middle, yes. But in the beginning, you should tell somebody, right? Anybody. Your mom, your friend, your girlfriend, you should say, I'm gonna start this YouTube channel, and next year my goal is 5,000 subscribers. And you're held accountable. You're held accountable because if you quit, you're just gonna inform the person you're a quitter. You're a quitter. Things get tougher, you quit, right? But after you tell them the first time, you should work in silence. Then when you hit that goal, you tell them, I just hit this goal. I am stoked, man. The next goal is pretty simple. You really want to have an overarching goal and many, many smaller goals to get you there. For instance, I really want to pass the Japanese N2. That's my main goal, right? I failed the N2 one year by 5 points, and it was just due to my reading skills. So I was really close, and it was my reading skills. So I said, I want to improve my reading. But how do you go about doing that? Well, you go, okay, you know what? I haven't really read books. So I'm going to read 1 book with my goal being 20 books, and then I'm going to try to pass the N2 again. So this way, my reading skill will be really good. So the first goal is 1 book. But before I finish the 1 book, my first goal is, chapter 1, then chapter 2, then chapter 3, and just slowly working that up and completing the book. Then my next goal will be, okay, I'm gonna read my 2nd book. And by the time I get to the 20th book, I'll have probably reached my goal of being really good at reading because I've read 20 books, 20 full novels, not manga, in Japanese. And I think a lot of people set that overarching goal too high, and they just go for the too high. And when they can't reach that goal, they become super disappointed in yourself. I'll give you an example for me. I entered my first Kanama contest, and I said, I really want to win this contest. I'm going to do my best to win this. I never entered the contest before. I, wasn't on the level of pros. And I enter, I get smoke in the first round, and I was so disappointed. And then I kind of like, okay, this is the level I'm at. And then I want to get to this level. So I'm going to set my goal a little bit smaller to, okay, I want to win my first match. If I win my first match in the next competition, I'll be happy. Then I want to win 2 matches. Then I want to make it to the finals. And I've slowly worked the goal up, and I won one of my very first contests, the whole thing. And I was so pumped because I went into that not thinking I was going to win. I went into that thinking, you know what, I want to win maybe 2 rounds, and I'll be happy. And I won the whole contest, and I was stoked. It was better than me setting that goal so high and tumbling down or even achieving that high goal because my goal was lower and I did something way more than I thought. And that's something that's just great. Now I have 2 secret tips for you guys. But before I tell you those secret tips, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The first secret tip is you want to get a job where you can learn what you want to learn. I'll give you a couple good examples of this. One of my first jobs as a college student was working as a chef. And I worked maybe 8 hours per day cooking food and learning how to cook food and prepare. Now I'm a really good cook. I didn't necessarily like cooking or like that job super well, but I learned because I had to. I had to work, I had to learn the skills because I had to get paid. Another good example of this, one of my Chinese tutors speaks exceptional Japanese, and I said, how did you speak such good Japanese? And she said, oh, I work in a Japanese company in China. Maybe she speaks Japanese all day. She gradually improves her Japanese because she's forced to listen, she's forced to speak, and she's forced to read in that language. This might be a little bit hard for you guys, but if you have the opportunity to say, okay, I need a part-time job, I'm studying Chinese, let me go find a Chinese speaking place where I can work at and practice my Chinese, I think that would be great. My second secret tip is you really have to make time to enjoy your hobbies. In the beginning, you're gonna suck. You're not going to be any good, but you really have to take time to say, okay, if I do this, I'll find this really fun. I think a lot of people just say, I'm going to study textbooks, and the textbooks are so boring. You want to learn how to get, practical experience with this. For example, Japanese, you want to read a book. It's going to be really hard at first. It's going to suck. You're not going to know anything. But by the time you get the third, fourth, fifth book, it'll be going good. I did the same thing with manga. I read my first manga, and it sucked. Then I read my second manga, a little bit easier. Then my third manga, then by the time I didn't feel like I was studying, I was just reading manga. But I was learning Japanese, and that's when I'm doing the same thing with books right now. This is the last tip I have for you guys in this video, but if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, make sure to do that. I'm trying to get 5,000 subscribers to show everybody that is possible. Now, down to the final tip of the video. And this is probably one of the most important tips I have for you guys, and I struggle with this in the beginning. The first thing is you're choosing to do this. Whatever reason you have to do this, you are choosing this. You can stop at any time you want. But the thing is, don't get so discouraged. In the beginning, especially the first thing, you're gonna wanna see extraordinary progress. You're gonna think you're gonna be the GOAT at this. You're gonna be so good. I did this when I first started filming my Kendama Everyday series. I thought I was better than I was. But when I had to film the clips, I couldn't do half the tricks I wanted to do. It took me a really long time. And I got so frustrated. I was so mad. And then I took a step back. I said, I'm the one who's doing this. I can quit anytime I want. Let me take a step back and try to understand my skill level. I think that's one of the most important tips and the most important things I've discovered in my life. I can say, okay, today, I can do this comfortably. I can't do this. So I'm gonna try to do this to improve myself. I think that's one of the most important skills you can have. A lot of people, they just overshoot, right? They overshoot. They're like, I'm gonna do this, and they can't do it. I think it's okay to push yourself for your goals, but if you tell yourself, you know what, I've never skateboarded in my life, not one time. Today, I'm gonna learn a tray flip from zero. I think that just kind of sucks, because when you don't learn a tray flip from zero, you're kind of like, oh, okay. You get really discouraged about the fact that you can't tray flip. Well, who's gonna tray flip on their first day on a skateboard? Okay, Rodney Mullen couldn't tray flip the first day on the skateboard. Rodney Mullen practiced 12 hours a day to get as good as he is. So you're not gonna be Rodney Mullen day one. You're not gonna be Rodney Mullen day two. You're gonna put in the years of practice. The 10,000 hour rule, it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert at something. A much more comfortable goal is like, I'm gonna learn how to tray flip. Okay, I'm gonna give myself, 2-3 months, learn how to tray flip from nothing. Every day, I'm gonna practice, 5 hours every day. I'm gonna start with the ollie, I'm gonna go to the kick flip, then I'm gonna try the tray flip. It's much reasonable to structure your goals at that, because you have to understand your own skill level. And at first, it might take you weeks to learn it, it might take you years to learn it, but once you learn your own skill level and you understand, okay, this is how much I can do in a day, this is how much I wanna do in a day, and this time I can do X, 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 and to improve myself, I'm gonna do Y, Y, and Y. And then that's all you have to do. Just to recap here for you guys right now, the first thing you wanna do is you wanna figure out which thing you're learning. Are you learning just for fun, or are you learning because you want to accomplish X? Then set how many hours you want to practice per week. You can just look at your screen time and say, oh, I spend Instagram 5 hours a day. I want to cut this back, so I'm going to study 3 hours per day. And then you just calculate that across the entire week. And then you start on Monday, you go, okay, I have to study 9 hours this week because that's my set predetermined time for study each week. Then you've already predefined what you're going to study that week, and you begin studying that week so you don't lose time. The goal is not to become an expert over time, but to slowly and gradually progress as time goes on. Once you start studying, you want to hit your small goals that you set along the way and have small things of gratification. If you set goal X, and at that goal X, you want to give yourself a piece of cake, eat a piece of cake once you hit goal X. Then you use its routine, and at some point you say, okay, this is too much study, and you just cut it back a little bit, right? You always want to try to do your best, but you don't want to get burned out. Okay, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe. I really don't know how this video was. Goodbye.